Welcome back to another episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy. Today, I'm interviewing the driven Danielle Renee. Danielle is a Brisbane-based founder and the visionary behind the Bobbie Charles empire. Danielle has come here today to share her award-winning strategies on how to build a thriving organisation that works for you. She owns 2 clinics, is a business consultant, a beauty educator, and an award-winning dermal therapist. But most importantly, Danielle's someone you can always approach and be your full authentic self around. That's what makes her so special to those in her circle. Through her business consulting programs, she consolidates over a decade of self-development and business strategies from the world's best leaders, coaches, and mentors such as Tony Robbins, Brené Brown, Jack DeLosa, and Dale Carnegie. Welcome to the show, Danielle.
Thank you so much, Sammy. You sell me so well. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I honestly can't wait to have this conversation. I've been really looking forward to it.
Oh, 100%. I agree. I remember when I found you through one of your ads, and then I was looking at your training, somehow ended up on Bobbie Charles, and I was so glad you tagged your personal account because then I followed that and reached out, and I feel like from the get-go, we just got very aligned kind of values and lifestyles. And I think it's really cool to have someone promoting more the lifestyle side of your business and what you've achieved. And I just know you're not someone who's a big gatekeeper and open to sharing. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, definitely. We'll try and share as much as we can.
So before we dive into your incredible achievements with Bobbie Charles, can you share with me a little bit about who you are outside of the business?
Yeah, outside of the business, guys, I am just a woman 50% of the time winging it and taking risks, just like the rest of us. I have my self-doubts. I have my challenges, just like everybody. So one big thing I want to put out first before we start this conversation is please don't compare my journey to yours. We're all on a different scope at any one time. But yeah, most importantly, I'm a friend, I'm an auntie, I am a sister, I am a daughter. But beyond that, I am the founder of Bobbie Charles, as you mentioned, and something that I am so proud of. I really love to lead, not just the beauty industry, but just people in general. I love to be able to pave the way. I love to be able to be vulnerable and show my mistakes and just really try and inspire other people to know that anything is possible, that you really truly can have anything that you want, but you have to have a really clear vision. And you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and you have to be willing to have a little bit of sacrifice in there. But yeah, that's pretty much me. But it all started from home back in 2015. Well, the beauty industry as such started back home in 2015, and I did it on my own for a year and a half or so. And I went through a separation at the time, and I had 2 pathways to go. And one of them was I've always had this dream, and I still do. I have a dream of living overseas, and I will one day. But I was like, now maybe is my time, because I thought I would have kids a long time ago. I'm 36 now, and it hasn't happened, but that's okay. And I had separated at 28, thinking I should have already had kids by then. It's so crazy how life works. But I was like, well, I either go and live in Europe now, because I'm European background. I thought I'll go and live in Europe now, or I could really just knuckle down to business. So when we went through the separation, obviously we had assets and stuff together that we had to separate. So I knew I was going to have, a separation of those assets. And I thought I'll either, funnel it into the business, or I'll go and just live my bloody life. And I have always been a very wild spirit. So I'm like, it was tough. It was a tough decision, but I am so glad that I did, because I invested it into the business. I'll get to that story in a second, but I've lived my life so much more anyway. I've had an incredible life. So people say you can't have everything, but you absolutely can. And you can have it all at once, I believe. Yes, you take sacrifices, but you can have it all at once. So in end of 2016 was when the separation happened, and I was looking at commercial spaces and weighing up my options, and it just felt right intuitively. So I went and purchased my first commercial lease, went into there, which is, now that I think about it, it's huge. Not to ego stroke. It's a huge thing. If I had a coaching client, they were never been in the industry, never, because I hadn't worked for anybody else. before I went and studied beauty and then started doing my own thing.
Well, don't you need a 30% deposit anyways for commercial?
Yes.
Like getting into commercial is a lot harder than even buying a normal property, so to speak.
Yes. So one amazing thing came out of my last relationship, which was my commercial property, my baby. No, many other things came out of that relationship. But no, so I went and bought the commercial property. And now that I think about it, and so none of my family have been in, like, not really many of them, I should say, have been in, I don't think any of them have been in commercial, but business and stuff like that. So I was kind of honestly was winging it. But I acted like I knew what I was talking about. I've always been able to be like, I know what I mean. And like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you just
100%.
block them.
Act as if. Everyone says make it till you make it. But I feel like that has a kind of toxic connotation to it. Like if you say act as if, like be that person today, like step into that belief, you know?
I love that. And it's so much more empowering. Act as if, guys. Act as if. So yes, I went and got the commercial property, and I remember I had builders in the business. This is going off on a bit too deep here, but it's a funny story. The builders said to me, I was very close with them, and it was November 2016, and I said, I want to be open by Christmas. Now that I know business, I know it's very unachievable. Like, you're an idiot. You know, you need to, like today, I would be like, well, slow down a bit because it's really risky. Anyway, so I said to him, I want to open by Christmas. And he said to me, everyone's closing right now. Trades are closing. No one wants to pick up a tool coming close to Christmas. And I was like, we're doing it. Watch me. And I hate when people think that I can't do anything. So I was like, watch me. I busted balls, Sammy. I really, more than I normally do. Literally, I was like, I'm going to get it done. So, but when you're building a commercial property or any, like, you know, any home, as most listeners would know, there's always issues. I had this clear plan, right? People were going to come in and do the floors. We were going to paint, and it was in the row it needed to be. But of course, if one person doesn't come through, then they all needed to be pushed out. And I didn't know that at this time that you could even have a project. What are they called? Project, kind of like the people that look after it for you.
Yeah. Yep.
So I was just doing it all myself. Now I would never. But yeah, and one of them were the floors. I remember it like it was yesterday. I really wanted these. I wanted these polished concrete floors, and I hated them after they got put in. They were meant to be, I'm really big on like lots of things, but colors like has to be, if I want to, most people in the, you know, design world would know if you say gray, there's lots of different versions of gray. It can have a green undertone, a blue, like cool, warm, whatever. It fucking looked blue. Excuse my French. It looked blue, and my aesthetics, everything is like, you know,
wasn't on brand, put it that way.
It was not on brand, and I've got this blue concrete floor. Anyways, it got done, but I ended up paying for somebody else like 6 months later to redo the whole floors. Anyway. Oof. I said to my friend, we're going to get it done. He said, I can't even get my buildings finished before Christmas, and I'm a developer. You shit out of luck. Like, it's not going to get done. Anyway, long story short, I got it done. But I definitely lost like a year or two in stress. Like, we opened Christmas Eve. Call it ego, call it what you want. But I was like,
I have goosebumps. That's what I have right now. I'm like, as you're telling me this, I'm like, I'm going through a fit out thing right now, and I literally, everything you're saying, I get it. You get put behind, and all of a sudden you're just under all this stress, like around Christmas too. That's not just, hey, it's July, it's kind of a quieter time. This is the biggest money-making period for the industry.
Absolutely. But I didn't know that, to be honest, because I was new to the industry. I just had a thing. Christmas, it's done. Next year, we're smooth sailing. But it got going, you know, back to your story, Sammy, is like anybody else that's listening that's similar to us. If you have a plan and you have a date and you freaking commit and you're like, nothing is coming in the way, like you've got to have that cannibal lion. I call myself a lion at times, and there's other times where I'm other spirit animals. I'm a butterfly when I'm in my feminine, but it's like when I'm a lion, it's on. Like, I'm hungry and it's happening. So yeah, we ended up opening just before Christmas. I got my first employee, Rebecca, which she absolutely changed my life. She made me think that all employees were amazing. She was just the most beautiful person. She was with me for 5 or 6 years. And then I was trading under Wink Lash Studio when I first opened, because my vision wasn't super, super huge.
Were you just doing lashes?
I was, yes. Funny enough, Wink Lash Studio, right?
Only lashes. Like, at what stage did you decide to then go into the other services?
Yes. Well, I soon because I didn't really. I've always had a hustler mentality. I know people say that word is quite bad, right? As a woman to be a hustler, but I am. Like, I'm hungry for success. But I didn't really think, because I didn't know the industry, that I thought you have to really specialize in one thing and do that one thing well, because that's what a lot of people say. But then you're so, like, you can't cross-sell, upsell, all of that stuff. So I slowly learned that to fill my books more, if I did other services that go hand in hand, I can make more money. So I went and did brows and went and did lash lifts. So I did all the eye area practically.
Yep.
And then once I was started to do brows, I was like, it slowly became apparent that, well, Wink Lash Studio, well, you don't really do brows that well because you're Wink Lash.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, if anybody's listening that is going through that period of what do I call myself or a rebrand, I think it's very, very important, if you don't know already, to make sure that your brand has evolution attached to it. It's like innovative. You can be whatever you want, whenever you want.
And if you were Danielle or Lashes by Danielle, Brows by Danielle, if you want to ever sell that business, it's not happening. People are going to leave because Danielle's not in that brand anymore.
Absolutely.
The danger of it.
That's a really good point to add in there. Yeah. So I rebranded in 2021. So I had the business for how long? 5 or 6 years before I rebranded. And when I was in the rebrand process, it was in COVID. Now, I share this story because at the moment in business where we are today in 2024, it is quieter. You know, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of coaches and stuff that'll say, oh, it's not quiet. The economy doesn't have any bar of it, blah, blah, blah. It does. We have to be smarter and we have to work harder. We have to, you know, reward our loyal clients even more than ever to keep them with us. So during COVID, it was quieter, and I was like, how are we going to use our time? This is again like that strategy mindset. You have to then think, how can I use my time now to better off in a year or 2 or 3, which was uncertain at the time when we're going to be able to open. But I was like, I want to come back better than anyone ever has. So during that time with COVID, we rebranded in the quiet to Bobbie Charles. And when I was thinking about the name and like, what do I call myself? Obviously, I knew that I wanted it to be able to be, whether we wanted to go into retreats or teaching or anything, it didn't have anything attached to it, so to speak, lash, brow, training, teaching, cosmetics, etc. But I wanted it to be something that I would never give up on. And so family is such a big part of my life. And so I named it after my parents. So Bobbie is mum and Charles is dad. And so I named it as something that no matter when times are tough, you don't walk away. No matter when, you know, things get a bit messy and chaotic, you always work hard for it. And so that's where that came across into the brand. And then I opened my second location too soon, I will say. I probably should have waited another 6 months or so, but there's no perfect time to open another business or to do, you know, a big decision, I think. But for me, I just think it was a little bit soon off the back of COVID. We had a lot of spare cash, as I'm sure you can agree. You know, the government was giving out so much money that you think you've got more money than you did. But anyway, I have West End and it's working. That was my second location, West End, and it's working really well now. And I opened West Village with a very clear purpose, and it's something that, you know, as we work together more, you'll get to notice. I don't know, everything's just purpose driven. When I opened West Village, I know the rent was going to be through the roof. I know it was going to be hard, and I know it could either make me or break me. I knew that already. And it has done all of those things. The rent's through the roof. It's almost broken me. But the purpose behind West End is I wanted it to be a flagship clinic. I was like, I want to be in a location that's better than everywhere else. And West End and West Village was this big thing. And I wanted people to be able to walk into that clinic and it have stance, have persona, have, you know, whereas Lutwyche is beautiful and small and family and like, you know, you feel like you're at home. And West End hasn't lost that. In the design brief, we said we want it to feel like home. But we want it to feel like you're a home away from home. I was very specific. You're like in Europe, but you're still local. Maybe that was my thing because I didn't get to Europe. I was like, I'll create it here at work. Now that I think about it. But yeah, it's working really well now. It's definitely almost broken me. And, you know, I have $1.5 million in overheads a year, and I'm just a girl from the burbs. It's like, grew up in Penrith. I didn't come from much money. So it's scary, but it's achievable for anybody to have that.
Were either of your parents entrepreneurial in any way, or were you the first person to go out and do something like this?
I was the first person definitely in my family to do something like this. My family have always been hustlers, but not necessarily in the right way. And I'll keep it at that, but I'll keep it short. But they've always been, movers and shakers, so to speak. But yeah, that's where I wanted to kind of do what they use my drive and use my hunger and the things that they taught me in life, but be able to make a difference. And I haven't always got it right for sure, but that's what I try and do and try and stay aligned to that as much as possible.
I agree. I think sometimes you actually benefit way more from making all the mistakes and owning them and telling that story, because if you were perfect all the time, if you thought you had it right, if you were the opposite of experiencing imposter syndrome, you'd probably be a narcissist. Like, you're like, I've got it all sorted. I'm the best in business. I don't need any help. And that's the reality. You won't learn the lessons that will allow you to progress to the next level until you go through them. And even with those coaches and mentors and people out there guiding you, sometimes some things you have to experience for yourself to be able to move through it and get to that next level in life.
You have to feel it, hey?
Yeah.
That's probably one thing I've learned, Sammy. That's a really good point that you add there is I always tried to, I don't want to say shelter or bubble wrap people, but it's a double-edged sword, because there's a part of me that in my coaching, I'm so passionate about people's business. More than them sometimes. I'll be up late and I'm ringing them before the coaching, like, get me your login. I need to, I'm a pain in the ass coach. But it's also, there's a side of me. Somebody taught me one day, I think it was my old manager actually. She said, you need to let people fail so they feel it.
Yes.
Or that you need to, and I was like, that is so true, which was so nice, because you can take the finger off the pulse a little bit and be like, you have to feel that failure. You have to walk away from a business, or you have to walk away from our business knowing that the grass isn't greener, and, but you really try. And I always bring business and leadership back to motherhood, although I haven't had kids, as I mentioned. It's so similar, because you kind of, I would imagine, like, from what I hear, you kind of want to, not have them make those mistakes and not break their arms because they're climbing a tree. But it's like, you've got to let them do their thing so they learn in life.
It's really interesting that you say all these things around, but I haven't had kids. And I'm like, well, you do have children. They are all your employees, your staff, your coaching clients. You actually have more children to manage than just being a parent. And I don't think people understand that when you're in a coaching role, you usually do have to be the glue. Like, you are being strong. And when everyone's coming to you with their problems, or like, I'm struggling with this, sometimes you just want to hold their hand and say, like, I'll fix it all for you, but you can't. And making peace with that is like, I can guide you and I can be your rock and support you or help you move through this, but I can't actually do the work for you.
That hits home really well. And I think that's what I'm learning, because I'm only, I want to say, like, a year and a half into the coaching space. For me, I'm a consultant more than anything, rather than a coach, but I feel like, and I would love to unpack this actually with you, Semi.
Go for it.
Because, like, some people, I feel like there's so many, and there's good and bad in every industry. And it's not to say that our industry is oversaturated with bad ones, but I feel like coaches get a bad rap because, of what's around.
Yes, 100%.
But I feel like, and, people go, well, if you're a coach, what psychology have you learned, or what, NLP have you learned, and all of this sort of stuff. Whereas I feel like if you're a consultant, firstly, is there consultancy courses? There's not really. I mean, there's a couple of little ones that you can do. And it's not because I don't want to have a certification to be able to do what I can do. It's the fact that people just straight away go to NLP. Now, I've done so many different trainings, but have I done NLP? No. But do I understand the fundamentals and how it's implemented into your real life? Absolutely. Have I done psychology? No. Have I been to many psychologists? Yes. But, But no, like it's life skills. I've been there. I've felt pain. I've felt failure. I've done different business. I've made mistakes, and I don't think you need to go and study NLP to be an incredible coach. But the reason why I like to call myself as a consultant is I personally find, which I'd love to hear your perspective on, is a coach is meant to let you figure it out, but give you some sort of pathway. They're not meant to give you the answers. They're meant to give you the skills to be able to fix your own problems, whereas a consultant is going to figure out your business strategy and tell you exactly what you need and help you implement it. That's, for me, more powerful. But tell me what you think.
My biggest penny drop moment or light bulb moment, whatever you want to call it, was when I realized what the difference was between a mentor and a coach. And so there was a mentor who is, I've done this. Let's say I'm head of Bobbie Charles. I'm going to teach you the exact steps I did. And if you copy me, you'll get the same result. That's mentorship. Whereas coaching, like you're saying, is asking them questions to get them to think about their situation and help them move through it without necessarily telling them an answer. And then, yes, the consultancy side can almost kind of blend in with the mentorship, as in, like, here's my system, process, framework you can follow. And I think that's such a good point for you to bring up, because I've made a big shift in the way I'm now presenting my offers in terms of coaching. Previously, I did 6-week, 8-week, 10-week. I've done it all, 6-month mastermind. And now I'm in my 3rd year and I've thought, what does the beauty industry really need? Like, they're time poor, they're stressed out, burnt out. Like, they don't want to be told to go set up all these funnels. And what is a funnel? It's not in their world. And so now I've started to realize there's such a need for both the coaching and consulting side. And so when I started Beauty Industry Leaders, I was wanting to bring the community of industry leaders together to support others who are striving to be better, who are interested in learning more and want to feel like they're a part of a community or movement. And now with the mastermind, it's like bringing in not only myself, I guess, more the coaching and the mentorship, and I will be sharing my journey in an episode upcoming. I've been slowly sharing on my Instagram. We're into our 8th family business. This is my 3rd business. But having an emotional support mindset coach, that's your coach to help you coach through all the issues and struggles and dramas. Then you've got experts or specialists who, one does Facebook ads and one will do this. And that's where, like you're saying, the consulting comes in. And I think, do you need a degree? Do you need to do all these things? Well, I've met people who have degrees and no life skills. They don't understand how to run a business. And when you think about it, like, what does a piece of paper do for you? Does it give you validation? Can you go tell your parents and your grandparents and your friends, oh, I got this certificate, like, wow, look at me? Or is it actually the mistakes you've made, the lessons you've learned, and the innovations you've come up with? And one thing that really stands out for me with your business and how you've evolved over time, like, you didn't just stay in lashes, you then moved to different services, you rebranded, you do consulting and coaching. You've always found ways to innovate. And if you stayed in the same place doing the same thing all your life, like, how can you expect anything to change or get better or grow? Like, you can't just keep doing the same thing, rinse and repeat, if you want progression in life. That went really off topic, but just how my ADHD brain thinks.
Well, I was just thinking, shit, I went off topic because I forgot to talk about the skin stuff and the consulting and stuff. We love this conversation.
I'm like, wait, what? You offer skin now? It's like, oh, and you also do aesthetics? Like, when did that get pivoted into the business?
Yes, let's go back. Oh, thank you for keeping me accountable. That's what a coach does. Yeah, so I did lash and brow, and then I ended up, I think it was around the same, it was 2000. And so it was around the same time, just before I did the rebrand. So I had already felt that I needed to do a rebrand from Wink Lash when I started doing the brows. So it was on my forecast. But I've always had a passion for skin because I had really bad acne growing up, and I was on Roaccutane, I think 2 or 3 cycles in my life. And yeah, I was like, I'm a big, like, I love human touch. For anybody that doesn't like human touch, I'm so annoying because I'm on you. Like, toe has to be touching you, or I'm like,
I'm the same with my partner. It's like you kind of like he might be too hot and he doesn't want to touch me, but it's always like your feet just touch.
Just be right there. Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah. And then, so going back to the human touch, I knew I wanted to do some sort of like facial component, and I absolutely adore it. I've actually been thinking lately, I haven't spoken about this to only one other person, so everyone else knows now, but I really miss the component of holding space in facials for our female clients. Like I love doing it for men as well, but there's just something that, I don't know, I just think that we need to be in our bodies so much more as women. And for that reason, we created the orgasmic facial. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, I love that. It sounds very orgasmic. It sounds like if you haven't been taking some time out of your day and getting freaky or just relaxing or a good release, go to Danielle.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So it was created for somebody like you and I that is really busy, and we're always, I mean, everyone's really busy these days, but just for practically the woman that's in her head all the time and needs more nurture. So you obviously still get the full facial component, but it's an extended facial. So it's an hour and a half, and we involve sight, sound, touch, breath, like movement into your facial. So I want you to think yoga while you're on a bed. Don't think downward dog while you're on a bed. But if you think, have you ever had a massage where you're lying there, and so say you're facing the ceiling and you're getting your neck and your décolletage and your head at the end of the massage? I feel like it's the best part for me personally. But when they start doing around like the stomach and the breast area and up through the throat chakras and just breath with you being in your heart chakra, like just like the whole support and embodiment of like a woman holding space for another woman, but not expecting anything in return. It's very rare we get to have that touch, but not have something expected of us as a woman.
Yes, I kind of was in my head trying to hold back. That sounds like someone's going on a K-hole, but it's just Well,
that's why we called it the orgasmic facial, because I'm like, there's nothing else like it. It really is. It's like you don't have to have that climax at the end. It's like a full body relax, holding space for you just to fully be you and have no expectations. And often after the time, and you can probably feel it, even us talking about it, how much we're in our body. And when we're in that state, like I can give, okay, going back a step, when I first started doing skin, I can give people incredible results, of course, but there's nothing more that you can do, nothing better you can do for a woman but make her feel in her body. She glows. You know,
she'll continue coming back to you and really not even care about what the service is. It's that feeling and experience.
Yes. Yes. You nailed it on the head. It's the feeling. But also, this is where I started. I've always known that I wanted to do some sort of business coaching or whatever, but I was like, I need to do more. I've always wanted to do, I was like, once I started doing skin, I was like, I need to do more. There's more touch. There's more. I need to do some sort of inner healing for these women in some way. So I was like, I want them to be able to leave the clinic and have the most magnetic energy when they leave the clinic, that they can have anything they want in life. Like, you know, when you see a woman walking around and she's just like, she's fucking got it, you know?
Yes.
And I wanted that for my clients. So that's when I started doing the orgasmic. And then that's when I was like, hang on a minute. Am I funneling? I already funneled Europe into the West End thing. Am I funneling coaching into my facials now? Let's just go and do the coaching.
Yeah. Well, you're already doing free therapy and mentorship and coaching when you are seeing all these people, they're putting all their problems or stresses on you. And it's like after that appointment, you can actually see the shift in, wow, I feel so much lighter. I'm so glad I had that conversation with you. And also they look beautiful after. But yeah. I feel like we don't take enough time to check in with ourselves. Like, as you were saying all those things, I was like, I definitely need this. And as much as you're saying all these relaxation things, like my jaw is so tight. And I know that I've spoken about this on my stories before, and other people have like really, really tight masseters and they clench from stress. And then they're like, oh, it's just so tight. And I said, I've had the Botox done before. I've had the buccal, I don't know if I'm saying it right. And I'm just like, whoa, that's where all my tension and stress is stored. And I need to be able to regulate my nervous system more and take that time to move my body and really connect in with myself. Because for everyone listening, when you are running a business, sometimes you completely lose sense of your feminine. Like I know I have for sure, because you're in that hustler, go, go, go mentality. Like I've got to make it work. I need more clients. I need money. What's next week going to look like? And you just forget what it's like to be a woman or to be a person. And you just don't look after yourself because you're always putting everyone else first. And so what I think everyone in the industry needs is to do what they do for everyone else to themselves.
You say that so well. I could listen to you all day. Such a trance. I feel like while we're on that note, we should really try and give our listeners today, or your listeners, I should say, is like some tips on how to, I'm not going to use feminine because feminine and masculine I think is very overused today. I think how to stay in your body and how to enjoy the work that we do. And for me, it's the simplest of tasks. And I can feel it's about being so radically like self-aware that when we stop feeling and we think too much. So even like when we're having conversations, whether you're on a podcast or not, having that small amount of pause to be able to feel what that other person is relaying to you, even if we're typing. And I still every day I'm the whole boss ass bitch. Everybody hates that word now, but I fucking am. Like I drive. So when I'm driving, the keyboard cops it. Like I'm just imagining it now. It must be so ugly.
Like
I'm like, I ain't got time for nails. But yeah, so just a little tip for people is to be like in your feels, like even when you're typing an email, to relax your wrists, to relax your arms, to relax your face. And it brings you instantly like away from clenching the jaw. It brings you away from clenching the fist. It like, you know what I mean? It's like small things throughout your day when you realize you're doing certain things that there's a time for the hustle, there's a time for the lion, and there's a time for the butterfly, but can we combine a little bit of the two? And so like for me, it always comes back to breath, because often we're like, holding tight, and when we're in a rush, like it's very rare we have a deep breath, So it's like whenever we feel like that tightness in our chest is just to take a minute and to come back to body and to come back to chest to come back to chest, to come back to body and out of mind. Would you have anything to add on that, Sammy? Like, what do you do? Because I feel like you've done what I've done tenfold, I feel.
I have ADHD, but I've never sat there and gone like, I have ADHD, it's the end of the world, like there's something wrong with me. I think that's my drive to have done all these things, but I really found that I would use the excuse of ADHD for not being able to meditate. And for years I would try and meditate and it would just never work. And then probably about 3 months ago, I was like, I want to meditate and I want to be present, and my nervous system is not regulated. I could understand and feel that I was so out of touch with my body. And I remember YouTube put it up, 10-minute meditation. I was like, I'm just going to commit to 10 minutes. I don't need to do an hour, and I just do it before bed. I'm tired already. And I could actually feel this level of transcendence. Like my body was so calm. I could feel how much tension was stored in my shoulders, and just doing that deep breathing and then connecting back in. I was like, wow, what have I been putting my body through? And on the back end of that, like I go get fortnightly massages for my scoliosis. And I found that doing the breath work and the breathing and the meditation, it's not half an hour or an hour, guys. It's literally 10 minutes a night. I noticed that made a huge difference and has allowed me to push out my massages instead of doing them weekly to fortnightly. So breath work, like specifically box breathing, when I did that the first time, it's like breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds, and just continue doing that. You really start to feel in tune with that present moment. And if your mind is constantly racing and you're always thinking about other things and all the, I need to do this, I need to do that, if anything, you need to actually slow down and take a heartbeat for yourself. Otherwise, if you don't slow down, like we all know, life will force you to slow down. You'll get burnt out, you'll get sick, you'll injure yourself. So being able to look after yourself throughout the process, like they say, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, if you try sprint too fast, you go too hard, you're going to hit a wall too soon.
Yeah, been there. I just laugh because I'm like, what do you mean it is a sprint?
I'm sprinting my whole marathon.
I was never good at marathons, though. I was that kid at the back who's holding my hands from stitches. So maybe I've always done it my whole life.
Hey, at least you're good at handstands. I'm so impressed. I saw your handstands on your story the other day and I'm like, I don't know if this is a limiting belief, but I can't handstand. And I don't know if it's my scoliosis because my back's not straight or if it's just I can't ground myself with my fingers and just hold in that position.
Oh, I don't know if you saw the video with the voiceover of how I talk about it, handstands.
Oh, I need to watch it.
Watch it because I talk about how much like handstands I relate it to life now because you honestly, you have to think about the first placement on the ground of your hands being spread so much. But you also have to be strong in your fingertips. But then you would think that you just have to have a really strong shoulders, but you have to have a really strong back and a really tight core and your glutes have to be on. And then you think probably that's about it because that's what's holding you up. But I've been a gymnast my whole life and I went to yoga, like nationals, worlds, like elite gymnast. And I thought I knew everything, right? Of course, because that's you. When you're at that level, the handstand's a fucking basic tool. Yes. So, but I went to this yoga studio when I haven't done it since I was 12, gymnastics, but I went to this yoga studio in Bali and she said, when I was up in a handstand, she said, tighten your legs, which they probably taught me this at gymnastics, but because it's been so long, she said, tighten your legs as much as you think it's your hands that's holding you up. It's your legs. You would never imagine. And ever since, I'm like, what? This is
I'm going to try this.
I'm
going to do a video, put it up, and I'll tag you if I can do it.
Yeah, because you imagine, like, if you've got loose legs on the top, if you think of, what's an analogy for this?
You just be wobbly.
I don't know, but if you
know those guys outside the cars and they're like the spring man that'll blow up?
Yeah, the more movement you got at the top, the more pressure it's going to put on the bottom. Yeah. So, once you tighten it on the top, it's like it's amazing. So next time you try it, that's just tighten your legs.
Well, I guess this is a perfect way to segue into leadership and team cultivation because you have had to build a strong foundation. I don't think you would have a team if people didn't trust and believe in you and you weren't a strong leader. Like, how did you go from you and your one staff member to then, oh, hey, I've got 2 clinics now and I've got business coaching and consulting? How have you built that team around you?
For me, it's processes, like systems and processes, like having those standard operating procedures. And I didn't have it at the start, but I had it like midway through and then, of course, they evolve and they get better as time goes on. If something goes pear-shaped in my culture, there's always a process, whether that be having a tough conversation, there's a process. That process might look like connect with yourself first, leave your ego outside. What is this person doing well? Is there evidence required for this? What's the next? Like, it's a process. And then the onboarding process is very clear. So say, Sammy, if you're onboarded into my business, we talk about where we've been and where we're going, our vision. And then we also talk about the crazy words we use in Bobbie Charles, like off the back of that and, tough conversations. And, we talk about what it all is. That way, when someone's in there, they're like, I already feel like I'm a part of the brand. So it just speeds up that initiation process, I guess.
They're being initiated into the cult, the Bobbie Charles.
And then the biggest thing is, I think if you take it back a step, it's about your marketing and what you put out to the world to be able to find top talent first. But then it's about retaining that top talent, which then is the tough part, because you've got to always be ahead and you've always got to evolve. And most importantly, you've always got to connect with them. So almost you see what happens before they even know it's going to happen. You have to be so connected to that person intuitively, and like I have to understand them to know they're not feeling well before they've been brave enough to talk to you about it, or they possibly think they've been poached before they've been brave enough to tell you about it. But you already know because you've seen their numbers drop over the past 2 or 3 months. And that has happened recently at BC. And we've been lucky enough to keep that top performer only because we were in tune with it and we knew our numbers, and our team are very connected. So yeah, it's about having that connection to your team and to be vulnerable enough to say, yeah, I didn't do that as well as I could have. Let's try again better tomorrow. And just remembering that it's a team effort. And so we do daily huddles for half an hour every morning where we talk about the day. Sometimes it's about numbers. Sometimes it's more about connection or whatever, our clients, whatever it may be. But in those meetings, I think as a leader, we always need to be able to take a step back and not always do the talking, so we can kind of feel what's going on in the room and to watch what's going on in the room. Being able to build a culture of inclusion, which then means I need to be open to feedback. So I get 360s on me as well from my team. Sometimes they hurt, but it's all a part of the process. So doing those 360s to all of our team, we have one-on-ones once a month, and then we have those daily huddles every morning. So it's just about making sure the communication is open and making sure everybody is connected. And I think, another tool that I use in my coaching is a really strong SWOT analysis. And people talk about SWOT quite a lot, but I truly believe that at Bobbie Charles Academy, we've taken it the next step. So just to give you a little bit of a piece, we do, our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. But, for anybody that doesn't know what that is, the SWOT analysis, the strengths, obviously you want to pass that on to your marketing team. If you don't have one, that's what you want. That's what you want your messaging to be. So almost like your unique selling point. So That's your strengths. That's all ego. It's all good. Strengths are there. They're not going to change. So we forget about that as CEOs. Realistically, it's the marketing department. And then we want to look at our weaknesses and we want to be really real and authentic there. What are we weak at? Because
what are you avoiding? If we don't write it.
Huh?
It's also like, what are you avoiding? Because sometimes the weaknesses that you're like, oh, no, it's not that bad. It's like, no, because you haven't looked at it for the last 6 months, aka your financials. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, so then we put the weaknesses down and we write them all out. And then we actually, to your viewers, if we want, Sammy, we haven't actually talked about this, but if you want, we can give them access to it and I can give them a code to have it for free. The SWOT analysis.
Absolutely. Yeah? I would love that.
So we write down all of our weaknesses and then we write down all of our opportunities. And of course, as a CEO, that's where we want to focus on, the weaknesses and the opportunities. And it should be large. That page, it should be big. And then we do your threats, which could be economic, it could be whatever. And I personally, other consultants might work differently, but I personally don't spend too much time on the threats because most of them will be in my weaknesses anyway. For example, if one of my threats is only one person that does cosmetic tattooing, that might be a threat if she leaves, but it's already in the weaknesses. There should be very minimal threats that we can actually control right away. Like economic changes, we can't actually control it. Whereas if you turn all of those weaknesses or 90% of them into strengths and all of those opportunities, if you pull some levers there, you're good. The threats don't matter normally. So, but then what we do after that, the part that we've done differently, I think, is we then look at it through a business, from a CEO. I then get my marketing team to do it from a marketing perspective only. What are our strengths, marketing? What are our opportunities, threats, whatever? And then we do it again from a management perspective. From a leadership perspective, what are we strong at? Because then we want to talk about that in our careers page. what are our weaknesses in a leadership? So you're looking at it from 3 different perspectives or lenses. And then we go a bit deeper, Sammy. So we go, all right, we've got all of those 3 pages. Most people will be like, fuck, we're overwhelmed. Don't do anything. Don't touch it. But that's what most SWOTs are. You do it and then you don't touch it. It's all well and good knowing it, but you've got to actually do something about it. So then we do a plan after that. So then we look at your weaknesses and we highlight all the things we want to do the next year. And even of those, I don't know if anybody else is listening, I'm sure a lot of them will be like us. We want to do so many things, but we probably can't fit it in. So we highlight all the things we want to do, but okay. And then if we can't get to all of those things and we can only get to 5, what are the things that are real urgent that are going to give us the best rocket fuel? So then out of those highlighted, we choose 5 and we only focus on that 5 for that year, get it done as fast as we can. And anything extra is a plus.
It's such a great way to do it because you're not just doing the market research, you're actually then implementing it. I think that's where people go wrong. It's like, oh, I've just created this big list. What do I do next? I'll just never look at it again. It's like you actually need to now do something with that information, not just let it sit there.
Yeah. No, I'm really big on implementation and I know you are too. I feel it from you, not that I've seen it from you, but I also feel it from you. It's like you have to, and that's the biggest thing. And I know that you do a lot of the coaching stuff like externally as well from other incredible thought leaders. And the biggest thing that I see is and I have done myself, is when you come out of those 3-5 days immersions, you don't get anything done. You've got a beautiful notebook with heaps of notes, but you don't end up pulling levers when you leave because there's so many things and you're actually not educated around. You should have another day when you get home to actually implement at a minimum or schedule when you're going to implement. But the implementation process is so important. And it's not just homework. It's like actual things that you have to do in between each coaching session for us to get to that next step in the coaching. So it's all part of the process.
So powerful. I love all of what you're saying. And I think that your results are a testament to the implementation. Like I know that I've had coaching clients in the past. Look, I've even done it myself, friends, family. It's like it all comes back to your core values of who you are as a person, your integrity. And if you say you're going to do something, go do it. You know, you're only lying to yourself if you're not actually going to go implement that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I really want to do something with you one day. It would be fire.
100%. It's a Bali business retreat. I already know.
Well, I'm like, well, you're off to Bali next year. Let's just organize it together. We're in Bali anyway at the same time.
Literally. I think it needs to happen. Like, I think ultimately beauty industry leaders, I would love it to be the TED Talks of the beauty industry and have
you got it, girl.
People like ourselves, other people who are also maybe not massive big names in the industry who are building themselves up and have achieved, like highlighting just because you have followers or because you don't, it doesn't take away from your achievements or what you've worked through, and just being able to create that community of people. Because I know no matter how big or small you feel, I guess, your exposure is, like there's so much to learn from everyone.
I agree. Our students are our biggest teachers.
Yes. They give you the best feedback for growth. You know, you learn so much. You need to always ask for feedback.
Yeah, 100%. I actually, in my coaching program, I have a couple of girls that I'm thinking of that you would really love as well. Going back to what you're saying is, you know, it doesn't matter if you got a large following or not. Like these 2 girls, I love all my coaching clients. Honestly, they're your
children.
Huh?
They're your children.
Yeah, they're a beautiful bunch of women. But these particular 2 girls, what is it about them? They just, you know what, it comes down to one thing, and it's like that support and that selflessness. And that's really hard to find. And they're both sole traders. So, but they both just willing to share and they want success for you. Like you just feel it in the group coaching. I'm like, do you guys want to, no, seriously, I'm always looking for staff. Do you want to coach beside me? Because you guys are just there backing me up 24/7. They're in the group call, the Telegram more than me. They're like, let's freaking do this, girls. I'm like, seriously, I should be paying you.
They're the accountability people. There's always your number one clients, not as in like your favorites, but like the ones that just show up. They put their all in. They aren't afraid of other people's success or what that means about them if they don't reach that level, and they know they have their own journey. And that's what I love about this podcast. I was going to say this show. That's what I love about this show, is that everyone has such a different journey. Like, there are people who are single mums. There are people who have had a parent pass away because they had cancer. There are people who, you know, have a partner and the partner's working away and they're, you know, just trying to find something to do. Like, everyone has their own story. And I think that is the coolest thing about this, because when you go into business, it's not about, wow, look at me, I have all these things and I've done all these things and I'm perfect, I've made this amount of success. It's actually about the journey, the connections, the people you meet. And I'm actually going to totally relate this to the analogy yesterday. I know this podcast will probably air a couple weeks late, but I climbed a mountain yesterday and I am not a hiker. Holy shit. I stopped 10 times. My poor brother was like standing behind me. He's like, are you going to pass out? We actually kept walking. He supported me. He actually stood behind me as we're walking up in case I fainted. I felt like my lungs were closing in and I was like, you know what? I'm ready to give up. It's so done. And I was just frustrated. And then I thought, I've already made it halfway. I can't give up. And then when I got 3/4 of the way up, it stopped being such steep stairs and it was kind of a little bit more flat, but still upwards. And we made it to the top. And I was like, that was the worst thing I endured. But because I had my brother there just supporting me, like, you can do this, like, it's all good. I got to enjoy the view with him. We got to go back down together. And I was just like, this is just like business. Like, there are so many times where you just kind of hit that point and you're like, I just want to give up. This is too hard. You know what? I'm done. And it's like, you won't get the whole reward. Like, I didn't realize the whole time I was going up, all I was just seeing was bush. But when I came back down, I saw all the other mountains around me. And I was like, this is beautiful. Like, I'm really enjoying this moment.
Yeah, and I'm going to add something else on top of that, because it literally just is that story is so beautiful. And I once had like this very, 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 I'm not even going to call him an entrepreneur. He was just like, if you think about Australian cattle, like orange, well, like huge. And he said to me one day, he's got planes, jets, helicopters, the whole lot. And he used to go, it's really like, he used to always be lonely. And I'd be like, why are you lonely? Like, you got all the money in the world. You can do whatever you want. If you really wanted to, you could pay for any company that you want. Like, what's the big, you know? And he said, Dan, it gets lonely when you're at the top. And I used to think, okay, mate. And I'm certainly
not everyone else can like make it there as well. You can't always experience that.
You get, and I'm not saying that I'm at the top by any means, but I know now what he meant, that it can be, going back to your story about your brother, you had him up there. You weren't lonely. You could enjoy that once you got once you get to the top. And it's very important to have those people that you have beside you that you can trust, that are loyal, that you can enjoy those mountains with on the way down and while you're up there, because you start to be abnormal. You think differently. You have to work at different times. So you start to be weird. You know, so I'm so glad that we've, you know, joined forces in some way, Semi, because it's nice to fit in.
Oh, I love it. No, I was instantly drawn. I think it was just, you can tell when someone's just good, you know, like, I don't know how to put it, but you just feel someone's energy and you just know they are just genuine. They're just good energy. That's exactly what drew me in.
Thanks, babe. It means a lot.
You're so welcome. I do have one last kind of, I guess, question for you around your whole journey and where you've gotten to where you are today, and obviously people listening in. Like, what has been the most memorable moment or story for you that just had that impact? Because you've done a lot. Like, there has to be one, I guess, moment that's just really shifted you emotionally. It's forced you to step out of your comfort zone, or it's taught you a really valuable lesson or something to have gratitude for.
Oh, I was thinking at first when you started that question, I go straight to the negative, which as humans we often do, right? It's like, what has been the biggest lesson? But I honestly think, and this is, you know, a sad point to touch on, but a beautiful one, is I lost my dad in 2016 or 2017, I think. And we actually took him home and we looked after him until he died, and he died in my arms. And it was honestly the most beautiful thing. And at first, when I started talking about it to people, they used to think I was weird because I said it's the most beautiful thing. But I was like, where else would you want to be than in your children's arms? You know, and I just think like life is so short, and it taught me at that time, like, so much strength. Like I didn't think I was capable of doing the things that I did at the time to look after him. And I was very tired, obviously, because, you know, he had this bell that he'd ring out with at night, and I was running in and helping the nurses, and I was angry and I was upset and I was all of the things. To see a man that you love in his own wee and in nappies is really hard, and just, yeah, it was terrible. But the thing that changed my life, going back to your question, is like the breath, his last breath, you know, seeing his last breath and holding him while he had his last breath. I think it reminds me, and I think that's why I come back to breath all the time, is like when times are tough and you take that big breath, it's somebody's last. And I just think we're so honoured every day to be able to get out of bed and put our feet onto ground and to be above grass, above the ground. I think we have another chance to, you know, I don't always, you know, make a difference and all of this woo-woo stuff, but we do. We have a chance to do something fucking incredible today every time that we get up. And yeah, that really, going through that really changed my perspective of life. You know, I still take risks, but I'm certainly not as wild and as crazy, because I value life so much more and value the circle of life so much more. Like when you have a newborn baby and just, wow, this baby is going to go through like the whole life journey that we go through. And it just has, yeah, really made me, when you see death, and you feel death and you feel a human body leave, it's pretty extraordinary. So I think that's
so beautiful.
You know, it's yeah. Oh,
I've got goosebumps now.
No, it is. It's, yeah, that's probably been my biggest. And again, that's, I guess, why I had Bobbie Charles named after my dad as well, and mum. And yeah, I think it's just so important to remember what's important to you, and just have a little bit of thanks every day for what we're given.
It's almost that reminder, like right now, I think just hearing that in peace is kind of like, right now I'm in this weird position where my grandpa has Alzheimer's, and he's just completely gone downhill in the last year or two. And I actually avoided seeing him because I didn't want to confront the whole situation. And now you can't even string a conversation with him. And I regret, I guess, always putting the business first and thinking that I needed to do all these things. But it's like those loved ones in your life, like you're never going to be able to get that time back with them. So I love that you didn't give everything up and just think, oh, I've got to focus on my business. Like, you were there for your dad. You got to embrace that moment with him, and that's living on with you forever now. And how you show up, and part of him will always stay with you, and the way you coach your clients and what you've learned through him and everything. It's really beautiful.
Thanks, babe. One thing I want to finish on before we finish the conversation is, I was thinking of it before, but now it's the perfect segment into this, is, I know it sounds cliche, but don't get so busy making a business that you forget to make a life. And I've been there and I've done it, and you will do it if you're in business. It's constant reevaluation. But just have fun, laugh, you know, cry, be you, make beautiful friendships along the way. And yeah, just remember to enjoy your life. I remember just on that dad's story is, I'll never forget, and this is why I make the decisions I do now to make sure I spend time with my family. I actually color coded in my diary so I can see on a weekly view how much time I've had with my loved ones. Is because I was just going through, like, I was still working from home, so it must have been 2016 anyway when it happened. But I was only working for myself with no staff, so I was obviously the only one making money. And I remember I had clients, and they were obviously very understanding, but I just kept thinking, and I was raised this way, you don't let people down. So I'll never forget the times that I did leave him. and even though it might have only been for an hour or two. So I didn't get it perfect, and we never do, but I did get to spend a lot of time with him. I really did. But when things are tough, and that's why I'm so big on culture, like I'm going through some things at the moment with my team, and two of them are actually going through some loss. And I'm like, nothing else matters. Like nothing. Like you don't have to worry about it. Just go. Like you don't want to ever regret not spending time with the people that you love, and you shouldn't have to wait till, there's a passing or there's an illness. I think, you still have to work on the business. Like over the weekend, I was looking after the nieces and I was on very special auntie duties. So I was like, how the fuck do these people do it? I'm like, I had all these plans and you don't get much done. But I was like, just every second I could, I'd shoot out a few more emails and, just staying on top of it while one was sleeping. And then, I remember my niece looking at me and saying, are you going to watch a movie with me? While I was watching the emails doing the emails. And I was like, yep. That's my sign. That's all I need. So I think, just trying to make sure, again, it's hard. It's hard to have the balance, but just keep working on it. Keep working on having that balance because you can have it all.
Yes, I agree. It'll just be different periods of different balances, to be honest.
Ebb and flow.
Well, thank you so much for your time today and sharing, honestly, everything. Like, you are so vulnerable, but also really real. And you also have such a great insight and mindset towards things, like in times of adversity or when people are thinking of giving up, like you have a great way of checking in with yourself and looking for the life lessons. And I look forward to continuing seeing what you post up. But for anyone who is listening, how can they continue watching your journey or connect with you?
They can watch my journey. I'm mainly active on my Instagram, which is just Danielle_Bobbie, spelled with Bobbie, Charles, on Instagram. But please, if you follow me, send me a message to let me know you found me through Semi. That way I can give Semi a big thanks. And just, I really do like to connect with people on that personal Instagram rather than just watch each other. But you can see the brand, like the Bobbie Charles brand. You'll find them on Instagram as well, Bobbie Charles AU for the clinic. And then the academy is Bobbie Charles, maybe Bobbie Charles Academy. But you can find them all. They're all linked, of course, in the bio. But most importantly, I think just send me a DM or just send me an email, and it's just danielle@bobbiecharles.com.au if you want to get in touch. But we'll definitely, if you're open to it, putting that code in there for them to get the SWOT, and there's a little video on how to use it and stuff so we can get them smooth sailing.
I'll link it in the show notes for them.
Thanks, love.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming onto the show. And if you love this episode, please screenshot and share it to your stories and tag both Danielle and myself. We'd love to hear your feedback on how you found it. Otherwise, I will see you next week.
See you guys.
Audience exclusive.